Okay, so hello and welcome back to another Unity tutorial. In this video we're going to be continuing with the Photon mini-series. In the last video we set it up so that two players can connect to the same game, but there's not really anything there. There's no proof, I guess you could say, that they actually are connected, because currently all I've shown you is you have a username, and then you select username, you're in a queue, and then when someone else enters the queue you go into a scene. Obviously, yeah, the reason you both go into the scene is because you've connected together, but we haven't got any way to, see each other in the game. Depending on what type of game you're doing, this will be different, right? If you're playing like a Hearthstone kind of game, a card game or whatever, you don't have like a visual player representation. You just have, your side of the board. You play your cards. They see what you do. But we're just going to go for something a bit more simpler to set up for this, where we just have a player, like, an object, a person to move around with. So in this video, we're going to just set up a very simple move script and be able to sync it across the network and also spawn in the players. So when we join the game, we spawn in ourselves and the other person can see us and watch us move around. That's the goal for this video. So I hope you enjoy it. Now let's get to the coding. But of course, first I've got to thank my patrons, so special thanks to Flowstate Games, Average Morning, Art Farrell, Buddha Ray, Remy Baldwin, and Fullborn. If anyone else is able to help support the channel monetarily, the link to my Patreon is down below. If not, there are also links down below to my social media, such as Twitch, Twitter, and Discord. If you could go follow me and go and join all those things down below, that'd be greatly appreciated. Now let's get to the video. Okay, so let's start. We need to load up the project from last time. Here you are in the main scene, or if you're not, then obviously go to the main scene. This is where we're going to be playing the game. We need to spawn in the player. We're going to keep it super simple and just have a script that on start spawns in the player prefab and then assigns it to us. Now, that's kind of done automatically by the Photon network. It assigns it to our Photon player. And then from there, we can check in the movement code to basically say, is it us that's moving? If so, then, move. But only if it's us, because otherwise then when you move, it would move every player in the scene. You don't want to move the other players in the game. Obviously, you move yourself. We can use the Photon view component to synchronize movement. If it's just movement or animation, some of the simple things you can actually... They've already made components for, because they know these are very common things across games, right? Generic, syncing positions of players, syncing movement or animation. For more complex things, like, as I said, I was making a card game, syncing the actual game state and playing cards and all that lot, it's a lot more difficult than this. So this is obviously a very simple introduction. And then if you want something more complex, then go to my GitHub page. You can see my card game, how I've been making that. And also you could go to my streams on Twitch if you want to watch how I make those. But let's start now. We're going to make an empty game object and call it the player, because we'll keep it simple. And we're going to go put this in the resources folder. If you don't have it, then make a resources folder. Make sure you spell it right, resources. Make sure I spell it right, otherwise I'll be embarrassed. And then we have the player prefab. And the player prefab obviously isn't going to be in the scene at the start. We're just going to set it up here. And then when we spawn it in through the Photon network, it will automatically assign it to us. So what does a player need? Well, it needs a movement script. Now, I've gone ahead and made the movement script so I don't have to wait for it to be made. And it's empty right now. Okay, I'm going to open up Visual Studio. I'll skip ahead to that, so we'll do the coding in a second. I mean, it's already open now anyway, basically. But while that's happening, I might as well just talk. So we have the movement script that handles moving this object. But just by doing that doesn't mean that the other players see it happening. Okay, so we need to add what's called a Photon view component. So we go to Photon view. There it is. Now, there is like Photon view. There's some other stuff on there, but what we want to do is we want to drag in transform, and as you see here, it changes to be a Photon transform view, or at least it adds that thing there to it automatically. And that just means we are currently synchronizing across the network our position and our rotation. So every time it syncs, it's going to send across where we are and our current rotation. Now, by default, scale is disabled, because there's no point sending the data across about your scale if you're never going to change scale. So as long as your player is staying at a constant scale, you don't need to synchronize that, then don't bother, right? If it was an animation that changed scale, then I guess that'd be different, because you would have an animation transform view and an animation view, Photon animation view, whatever. That would synchronize that. But just for this, we want position scale, and we're just going to say apply, okay? And that's effectively it for that. We just need to actually write the code to move now. So if we go over here and we go to the namespace, we're going to have namespace Photon tutorial.movement. I've put the script in a movement folder. Let me just show. We've got assets, scripts, menus, and movement. Just close menus. So for movement, we're just gonna, every frame we're gonna move, and we're gonna have a character controller. So we want to say, private character controller, and then on start, why not? we want to say character controller, controller is equal to get component character controller. And then of course we can say on here require component type of character controller, which means that this script won't work if we don't have one, and if we don't have one and we add it, it adds it automatically. Make sure it forces us to have the character controller. And yeah, we're going to get that on startup, which is obviously what we want. And then we want to actually take input now. But when we take input, we need to make sure that it's only us, essentially, that's taking input. We don't want the other people, when they press the movement keys, to actually move us. Only like we should be the only one moving ourselves, which, you know, makes sense. It's fair enough. So in the update, we want to access the photon view and ask if it belongs to us, because that's how it works basically. There is a simple boolean for like if it belongs to you, and then you can do stuff based on if it belongs to you, right? So if you made like an attack move, you'd only want your input to affect your attack move. So if we basically say if photon view dot is mine. Now we can actually say, I think it was photon or like pun mono behavior. Let me just put photon network. If I can spell, that'd be lovely. Import that. And then we want a mono behavior pun. There it is. Okay, and if we do that now, we can access photon view property there. Equally, you could get component, but it's not worth it. It just makes more sense to do this. So we say if photon view dot is mine. So if this belongs to me, then we want to essentially take input. Right, take input. And I can't type apparently. All right. So we'll make that function. And then down here where we've got it, we want to, well, process input. So we'll say that we'll do a very simple input thing. We're not going to worry about gravity and forces. We'll just let the built-in thing do the gravity for us. So we're going to say we want a vector free movement is equal to a new vector free, where we set x equal to input dot get axis raw horizontal, y equal to 0 because we don't want to go up and down, if I can type, and then z is equal to, if I use commas, z is equal to input dot get axis raw vertical, like so. Now we can put a semicolon there. Okay, and then we can say dot normalized, and that can be a var, whatever. So here we store movement and it's normalized, so diagonal movement isn't faster. And once we've got that, we want to have probably a speed variable. So at the top we can just say serialized field private float speed. I prefer writing a movement speed. Serialized field. Get rid of the unused things. And then down here, once we've got the movement, we want to say controller dot move, but we'll do simple move so we don't have to worry about gravity. We want to move by movement times by movement speed times by time dot delta time. Okay, now us moving ourselves should be done by us, and it is because we've done the photon view. Technically, you could argue getting controller. We could also just not store it if it doesn't belong to us. But at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter because we're not using it anyway. Obviously, I can't set move speed to be null by default. That's silly. But yeah, this should work just for very simple moving in a direction. Now, this doesn't give us the ability to move the camera around or anything. We'll worry about camera later if we do it in this video. I want to keep these photon videos very simple and very short to do certain little things, so that no matter what type of game you're playing, you can just look for that specific tutorial rather than making these really long tutorials about how to build a specific game. Anyhow, so now that we've done that, we can move ourselves. We're going to put like 5, for example. Okay, and then we're going to go ahead and put a character controller on ourselves. Let's go to the scene. And we're going to also add an empty game object. Actually, no, we're going to add a capsule to ourselves. And that capsule is going to be up by 1, so it's on the floor. Okay. I know the lighting's a bit odd, but it's fine. I'm not going to worry too much about lighting. I'm just going to leave it how it is, to be honest. Let's not fiddle with that. We'll just call this body. And on the body, it's simply a capsule. Well, no, we want to remove the capsule collider because the collision is done on the parent. This is just the visuals, right? Only the visuals. We move the visuals up so that the pivot point is on the feet. The only problem about that is that the center of the character controller is at the feet. We want it to be at the center of the body. So if we go to character controller, just make sure you set the center to be at 0.5. Sorry, 1. Set it to be 1. Then you can tweak the other things if you want. Now, the height and radius is default for a capsule. It's correct. I usually put the skin width to be 0.01, and then everything else is fine, in my opinion. And if we apply and maybe move the character controller up because it's a built-in script, just put our custom scripts at the bottom, the stuff we're going to be fiddling with. Maybe tag it as player, and I think I'm happy with that for now. So this is a player. Now, if we press play from this scene right now, we should technically be able to control it. Actually, no, we're not, because photon view is not mine. We don't even have it set up yet for ourselves. But that's fine, because what we're going to do is we're going to do that now. So let's get rid of the player. Make sure you've saved it in whatever. Delete. And now, remember, make sure it's in your resources folder. We want to make a player spawner, and this will spawn both players in for both the players. So we're going to create an empty script, empty game object called the player spawner. I'm going to reset that. It's going to have a player spawner script, so we'll go make scripts. And for now, we'll just put it in the root. We'll call it player spawner. And the player spawner is going to just on start spawn us in. Okay, it's going to be simple. So it's namespace photon tutorial. I'm not going to put it in a folder just yet. I haven't got a good name in mind for a folder. Maybe spawning, I don't know. Okay, it's a mono behavior. And all it does is it just says on start. We want to spawn in a prefab. So let's get the prefab, game object, player prefab. Now, one thing to note here is we're storing the game object here, but we're not actually spawning it in from the game object because the photon network spawns it in from the resources folder because it has access to the resources folder for both, like for the clients. So what it can do is it can, all right, the problem is we could make this a string, right? You could say ideally we make this a string, and you'll see why in a second. Let's just say photon network, bring it in, dot instantiate, right? This is instantiating through the photon network, the prefab name, right? It takes in a prefab name to get from resources. So the reason I'm sending in the actual prefab itself makes life easier, because if we just say player prefab.name, then we don't have to worry about accidentally changing the name of the prefab because it would be updated here. If we did a string and changed the name of the prefab, we'd have to remember to come back here, so it makes our life a hassle. So let's just leave it like that. Then it says where to spawn it in at, and it hasn't got a default position, so let's just set it ourselves to vector3.0. Why am I saying new? It's just vector3.0. Okay. Then the quaternion can be quaternion.identity, which is essentially quaternion.0, but it's just different. And byte group object data, we don't have to set any of that, just to spawn it in, right? Now, I'm going to put that as an expression, why not? So that's all we're doing, right? On start, we just spawn in the player prefab. But because we're doing it through the photon network, their instantiate function assigns the photon view on that object to us. So that when we check in the movement script, if the photon view is mine, do the input, then we only get input for the object that was instantiated by us. I hope that makes sense to you guys. So if we go to the player spawner and add the player spawner to it, and drag in from assets the player prefab, which is in resources, we can then go put that in like systems maybe, and go back to the main menu. And I'm going to go build the game now. You should do that too, and we'll go see if it works. So I'm going to skip ahead until it's built. I'll see you in a second. Okay, so it's built, and here I am on the client, on the built version. We're going to click find opponent, and then go back to here and press play and find opponent, and have our fingers crossed that it works. If I press play, find, we're in the scene as ourselves, and we're very slow. But as you notice, I'm moving, right? Now, obviously, yeah, I can tweak the speed, right? If I just tell the player, now you see there's two players in here that have photon views, and you even see here who the owner is. The owner is Dapper and YouTube. Now, I'm on Dapper right now. So if I just change the move speed to be like 20, obviously, to like 100. I must have done something wrong to get the speed to be... Oh, no, I know why it is. It's because the simple move does it for you already. The time.delta time, so you don't need to pass that in. That's why. But you see the points. I'm moving over here. Now, if I go over here, you see I'm moving as well. Now, yeah, again, the speed on me is wrong here. But as I'm moving away from the spawn area. And you tab back in, I've moved. And if I move over here, for me, and I just go and walk around to the other side, I'm now here. So we've actually now got synchronized movement across both of the build of the games. So all I've got to do now to fix everything up, which I need to do, is go to the movement script and just take out time.delta time because it's done for me. I remember reading that on the docs. I don't often use simple move, but it's done. It's meant to make life simple, I guess. And that's that, yeah, and then probably set the speeds back to 5, or maybe, yeah, 5's probably enough speed. That's what I usually go for. Now, I'm going to build one more time to show you guys the final product, then we'll end off the video, but I'm going to remember to go to build settings, and I'm going to go to down here, where it's in presentation, and enable this. It tells me it's deprecated, meaning it's going to be removed soon. I don't know whether that means they're replacing it, or whether they're just going to get rid of it entirely and make you build your own, like, resolution selection, which most games do, obviously, but that's handy to have by default. So yeah, I'm going to skip ahead, and when it's built again, we'll try again, and I'll have both the screens next to each other in windowed mode so that we can actually watch it happening live. So I'll see you guys in a second again. Okay, we're back. One thing to note is you can't build and run if your build and run from like previous is still open. So I just had a problem, I had to close it and rebuild, but it's fine. So we've got YouTube here, and we've got the other one here. So we've got the two playing. Now I'm going to join here and join here, and as you see, they both join. Oh, they should. Apparently they didn't get matched. Let's see what happens here. He's still waiting for an opponent. What if I join back here? There we go. Okay, so I'm going to move here, and there you go. Now, obviously, it's not perfectly synced, and that is due to the fact that obviously there's network delay. Now, even though I'm on my own computer, it still sends the data to the Photon networks and then back down to my computer again, because that's just how it works. So it's pretty good, right? It's pretty good. Now, you can always get things better in games by having prediction systems. So if you're moving right, they just assume you're going to keep moving right, even if they even before they get their input to do so, they just assume you're going to keep doing it. There's things like that. I'm not an expert on like the prediction systems they do in games. Same with like shooting. You know, if you shoot at someone on your screen and you hit them, doesn't mean you actually hit them on the server. So you might get annoyed that you didn't hit them. You know, people get annoyed at online games for lag and stuff. Even if it's so small, it's unnoticeable until it, you know, really gets you. But the point is, this works, and yes, there are ways to improve it, but the more you improve it, the more you're kind of cheating yourself, in the sense that, you know, if you predict movement, you can be wrong. This is like it's as correct as possible, right? This is never going to be wrong. It's just going to be slightly delayed, I guess. And also the problem is that the more data you send to get stuff better, the laggier it is, because obviously you're sending more data, it takes longer. Now, unless you're sending a ton of data, it's obviously not going to be a big performance problem. And if your game's casual, it doesn't matter, right? If it's a highly, you know, competitive online multiplayer game, then yeah, you're going to need to do something about it. But yeah, I hope you enjoyed this video. We've got obviously everything working here as expected. We can move on both clients and both see it happening, so we can now play the game together. You just need to start making a game. So we're going to start just building some more game mechanics. Feel free to let me know below what you want me to try making. Keep in mind, I'm relatively new to multiplayer, so it's not like I've made everything. I mean, I still haven't made everything anyway. The point is, I've only made a few things so far, like with a card game and some, like, you know, some games like this where I've just moved around and interacted and shot. So we could do like a shooting system next, where we spawn in projectiles, hit, and do like damage detection, you know, on the master client, you know, if there's a master client, handle damage detection or whatever. So we can do that next time. I think that's a good idea, but if you guys have better ideas, leave them below. Check out all the social media links as I said before. If you haven't liked or subscribed, that would mean a lot to me. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video next week. So thanks for watching, and goodbye.